Hey guys, it's towniesimbuilds here, and welcome back to another bite-sized speed build. Now, if you're tuning in today, this is going to be a little bit of something different, and this is actually the very first time I'm taking on a build challenge. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, Townie, what do you mean? You do build challenges all the time. But this build challenge is actually from a fellow simmer by the name of Marcy Laycelle. And if you guys are not familiar with her channel, please check her out. She is a wonderful person, and she is also a very amazing builder. So overall, her specialty is designing suburban homes, a lot of smaller and tiny houses, if you will. And currently, I think she is in the middle of a 100-house challenge, which is really crazy. I don't think I could ever take on something like that. But yeah, definitely check out her channel. She does have a lot of great content. And of course, this is her current build challenge. So I don't know the name off the top of my head, but we are currently in the world of Willow Creek, and we are on this 30 by 20 lot. Now, Marcy did create a very interesting story. And Marcy, if I get anything wrong when I recount this, please let me know, because yeah, the details are a little bit murky. But overall, this lot was inherited by a sim of unknown name, and he, she, or they inherited this lot from their grandmother. Now, the lot, I believe, was originally a farm. It does come with a shed and also a water feature. Now, based on the rules, I could not alter the terrain itself, including the water feature, and I did have to keep the shed intact as well. I was also on a $55,000 budget to pretty much create this house from scratch and also renovate a lot of the landscaping. Now, we won't get into it just yet, but there is a few objects. There are a few objects in the shed itself. There is the portrait of the grandmother and grandfather, and also an urn. So those were objects that did need to stay on the lot, along with some sunflowers, which were a favorite of the grandmother in the story. I did also keep the original mailbox. Almost forgot the word. I did keep the original mailbox that Marcy installed on the lot, and you guys do see that a little bit in the corner. But anyways, I'm already so far into the build itself, you guys are probably thinking, you know, what exactly is going on with the house? So the house itself, I actually had to restart. Originally, I created a house that was very rustic to the point where it looked like we were in the world of Henford-on-Bagley, which, you know, if you're in Willow Creek, you're thinking, whoa, this house is such an anomaly. It just doesn't fit in at all. So I did tone it down a little bit. I was trying to bring in probably a little bit of a French countryside influence with a little bit of colonial. And I definitely wanted this house to have a little greenhouse attachment on the right side. So if we're kind of playing into the grandmother's story, I figured that when she was still alive, perhaps her and her husband ran this complete garden or nursery, if you will. So you will see a garden kind of spring up on the left side in just a little bit, and you will see a sort of florist station in the greenhouse. So I do use that object from Seasons. It's honestly a really cool object. I've always wanted to run some kind of flower shop, but here I am. Here I am, you guys. This is the first time I'm building something floral related. Probably would like to do a flower shop build in the future. But yeah, this is where we are right now. So I did add in the debug bridge. I have one usable bridge towards the back, and then the debug bridge, I believe, from the cottage living pack. And I thought these broken down wagons were really cool, especially if this lot was sort of in need of a repair job, if you will. I also go in and add a lot more flowers. Overall, the house was a lot more neutral, but I really loved these flower beds, giving a nice pop of color to the lot itself. Now I'm going in and adding a little bit of gravel texture, and to be honest with you guys, I really struggle with the garden area. Normally when I do gardens, I kind of put those larger sort of crop squares from the cottage living pack, if you guys know what I mean. So that's normally my default for gardening, especially if you like growing crops and stuff. But I do make these sort of pseudo strips of soil and then proceed to put pots on top of them. So yeah, it doesn't quite make sense, but I figured that the base game pots were easier if you're trying to grow plants, flowers, herbs, whatever you would like to use. But you know, feel free to use actual plots of dirt if you prefer that instead. I also added in an old vehicle. I figured that because sunflowers were the favorite of the grandmother, I did want her to have a little car or SUV that did match that. Anyways, I'm just going in and adding a few more details to the house. I do put in some flower beds from the base game, if I'm not mistaken, and then going in and adding some more foliage to the fence as well. Now, because I could not alter the terrain, there were a lot of weird moments, guys. There were a lot of weird floating fence pieces, so I kind of had to work around the rules. I threw in some bushes, some bits of foliage to cover those very strange bits. But anyways, here we are. I did incorporate the original set of sunflowers and then putting some more in the flower beds themselves. Okay, so now we are on to the shed. I'm doing some very quick external renovations. Marcy, I don't know if we were supposed to do this or if we were allowed to, but I thought I would take the liberty to do so. I did want to respect the shape. I did want to respect the placement of the windows and also the door, but with some little bits of adjustments here and there. I'm thinking the sim who inherited the house already started getting to work. I know the landscaping is a little bit more on the overgrown, dilapidated side, but I did want the shed to match the house just a little bit. So use some of the season's wallpaper there, and now just going in and filling the backyard space. Now, for some reason, I don't know why I did not put a fence piece here, but I just made it very overgrown to fill that little gap. Now that we're on to the inside, I'm trying to lay out the space, and to be completely honest with you guys, it took me a few tries. I did move the kitchen over. I shifted it towards the back instead of squeezing it in that little nook. And just going with the theme, again, very rustic, very much French countryside, if you will. Yeah, can't say how authentic these words are. I don't know the exact term for the style, but it's very provincial, much like the other cottage I just finished up with in the other mini speed build. But I think this is definitely my favorite of a lot of them that I've been doing. A lot of them that are more rustic, a little bit more country oriented. I did love having the little bar stool island in the middle because I figured it was just the grandmother and the grandfather living here, so that was just a very cozy and simple dining solution. But again, I'm just going in, and honestly, I was really excited to use a lot of the paranormal stuff objects because I very rarely get the chance, but I honestly love the stuff in the pack. I do know that a lot of the pieces are super vibrant, but there are some more muted options. So I did pull some of the hanging plants, a lot of those really nice bottle plants, if you will. And because we are in Willow Creek, I thought paranormal stuff works very well because the pack itself is very much themed around Louisiana and some of the culture there. So you see a lot of those very fun patterns and motifs. I can't really pinpoint which cultures per se, but I did think it fit very well here. Just going in now and adding some details to the kitchen area. I do use the little chicken that came with the cottage living pack. Fun fact, my mom actually had a chicken timer that looked almost exactly like that object, so I thought it was really fun there. And then going in and adding some, adding in a shoe rack, some, I can't think today. Adding in a shoe rack, I had a bench from Seasons as well, just to complete the hallway area. And now we are diving into the greenhouse, and the greenhouse is probably one of my favorite spots because, yeah, I think the last time I built a greenhouse was in the Coraline house, which, if you guys know, that was almost a year ago already. But we do have our florist station here, so this is a great way for your sim to potentially make money selling bouquets and other flower arrangements. I did really love this little wagon object from Cottage Living, but unfortunately it had to go. We were really low on space, but I do use this sort of wicker chair from the Paranormal Stuff Pack and also more base game planner boxes. So I did want this chair in here for some reason. I think it's a nice way to relax. If the florist living here is wanting to take a break and just kind of gaze out into their garden, you know, enjoy the sunlight. Moving on to the right side, this was formerly the kitchen area, but I figured this was much more effective as a little living room / reading nook. So we do use this lovely couch from the Paranormal Stuff Pack paired with the Paranormal Stuff Pack armchair and also the armchair from the Cottage Living pack as well. So this nook, again, is probably another favorite spot of mine, in addition to the greenhouse. And it's very small. It's very narrow for a living room, but I figured that the grandparents that lived here were simple folks, you know, not really big on, you know, flat screen TVs and video games per se. But this was just a really nice, cozy place to relax, read a book, maybe drink some tea, something along those lines. I do just pop in a few more wall decorations. I do use the sort of collection of objects from the Paranormal Stuff Pack, which I honestly wish were separate objects because I love a lot of those pieces, but sometimes I don't want that giant cluster, you know what I mean? But alas, I don't think EA is ever going to fix that. Anyway, we're moving on to the bathroom now, and I do start with my standard double vanity setup. I do use these rustic base game sinks that I really love, and also some craftsman style mirrors as well. Apart from this, I did struggle a little bit with the bathroom layout because there was a lot of excess space. And ultimately I went with a bathtub and shower combination, and then also created a little linen closet to the right side. And the reason why I did this was because the bedroom itself didn't have a closet space, so I figured that this would be a good place for it. And perhaps that's weird to some people to use a closet in the bathroom that's not necessarily only for linen, but I do have something like that in my apartment right now, so I thought it was a better way to use space. I didn't want to add a shower and a bathtub, so I thought this was a pretty nice solution. But yeah, overall, I think this bathroom is one of my favorites. I added a lot more details. I added robes for the original couple, the original grandparents. I do use a few flower objects. I do use the hanging plant from the Paranormal Stuff Pack once more, and also the Cottage Living flower pot as well. Just finishing off the room with the medicine cabinet. Now for the bedroom, you guys. It does go through a little bit of an evolution. I was very unsure of what I wanted to do with this space. But ultimately, I did go for this Seasons bed. Just to start things off, I really liked a lot of the white and kind of pale lavender, some of those slate gray tones. And originally I thought, okay, I really enjoy this swatch. I never use it, so let me give it a try. So there it goes. It's gone, guys. I went back to the Cottage Living bed, which I think fit a lot better. I think the Seasons bed, as lovely as it was just a little bit too contemporary for this build. So that is what I settled on. Anyways, we're heading back downstairs now, and I do use the accent table from the Paranormal Stuff Pack and use it as a place to place the urn. Place the urn. Anyways, there it is. I did use another flower pot there with some candles, and then returning to the bedroom itself, I did want to keep this fairly simple. I just use a base game dresser with the base game retro box TV. Personally, I would have liked a more vintage TV, but if you guys have other packs that have better options, please feel free to use them. And just going back down, I did put in the grandfather and grandmother's portraits along the wall there. So I figured that every time the sim would go out to garden, they could reminisce on their grandparents. There is their urn, or I think the grandmother's urn, I would say, and also their portraits there, obviously along the wall. But here we are, we're back in the bedroom itself. I made another small little reading nook with a more kind of rustic industrial style bookcase on the corner area, and then placing in another Paranormal Stuff Pack armchair, accent table, and the teapot set. So a lot of paranormal stuff there. You guys did also see it with the end tables themselves, the little nightstands, I should say. And then going over here, I really did want some wreaths here. I think it was a nice way to dress up the space. So I do use this wreath from Seasons, and I opt to put them in the front door and back porch entrances. Going in now with more of these wicker or metal chairs from the Paranormal Stuff Pack. Just a nice, sweet, simple sitting area with the base game apple crate there. And then just adding some outdoor light fixtures as well, because yeah, a lot of the lot at night was pretty dark, so we do need some light, at least on the porch areas. Anyways, we are finally finishing the build with the little shed itself. And this is where I was honestly running out of money, you guys. I used the Seasons kind of lanterns, garage style, or porch lights, I should say. And I really love them here, but they do go. I do try to squeeze so much in here with a lot of debug because, again, I was short on simoleons, unfortunately. But I do love that sort of herb station there, using some debug objects for more gardening tools. And then, yup, here we go. Say bye-bye to the lamps, but we do replace them with the cottage living ceiling lanterns, which I do think still work quite well, if I'm being honest with you guys. Alright guys, and that is a wrap on the Floral Garden House, aka Marcy Laycelle's build challenge. I really hope you all enjoyed this design, even though it deviated from my typical tiny house structure for the bite-sized speed builds. On another note, if you guys do want to take part in this challenge, I will also provide the details in the video description. And of course, if you haven't checked out Marcy Laycelle's channel, please do. I really think you all will enjoy her builds. On another note, if for some reason you guys do not have the paranormal stuff pack, this build doesn't use a ton of content from this pack, and all the objects that were used in this build are not essential to the structure itself. With that said, I will leave you guys with the final cinematic shots, along with the final lot specs as well. Just like always, this has been 𝗪𝗛𝗡𝗏𝗚 signing off. Thank you so much for watching, guys.